So, John, in regards to the next stages, as we spoke about with the interview, obviously, hopefully, the applicant will get through the interview stage and then they're referred onto a firm where they may attend another assessment day with the firm themselves or between sort of 1 and 2 interviews. And all being well, they'll be offered a training contract. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that training contract or agreement actually entails?
Yeah, sure. As you said, training agreement, which is sort of the standard name for it these days, is ICAW-led, Institute of Chartered Accountants in England and Wales. And that training agreement can be between 3 to 5 years. Predominantly, our firms will offer a 3-year contract. And over that 3 years, the student is expected to fulfil a number of different criteria. So they have to pass professional exams, which there are a number of. They have work experience, which there is a dedicated amount of work experience they have to do in that training contract period.
Okay. And just, for a bit more information, can you say a little bit more about the exams and sort of how many there are and the levels of exams as well?
Yeah, sure. There are 3 levels of exams, okay? You have the certificate level, the professional level and the advanced level. In total, there are 15 papers, and they're divided up accordingly. So you've got 6 certificate papers, which are computer-based exams. They're 1.5 hours each in length. You have professional level papers, where there are again 6 papers. 5 of those are 2.5 hours each in length, and there is one that's 3 hours. And then you have the advanced level, which has 3 exams. You have 2 technical papers and a case study, which is the sort of final, almost like the final admitted paper that you would do. And that really is a paper that oversees everything you've learnt from your professional exams and your work experience. It's an open book exam. You can take in your study texts, and it's a pre-seen paper, so you can see it beforehand.
And in regards to the work experience that you mentioned, is there a certain amount of time or work experience that a student needs to get in order to qualify?
Yeah, sure. The amount of time that they have to fulfil is 450 days worth of technical work experience. Now, that work experience can be in different mediums. It can be in accounts, it can be audit, it can be tax, it could be another sector or area. But so long as they fulfil 450 days within their training agreement, then that will be sufficient.
And the other 2 areas that I guess a lot of people don't really look at in depth but are equally important because without them you can't qualify to be a chartered accountant is professional development and ethics. Can you tell me a little bit more about the professional development side of things?
Yeah, absolutely. Professional development, there are 7 different components to it, which are mainly built around things like soft skill areas. So you're looking at things like communication, adding value, technical competence, decision making, etc. And for each one of those, you have a different rung on what we call ladders to achieve. Now, at SWAT UK, we actually provide forums and workshops and sessions for those to help the students facilitate that.
And ethics and professionalism, what is that all about?
Yeah, ethics and professionalism. Again, ethics runs throughout the whole of the qualification. You'll find that in a number of the exams, ethics comes up as well. But there is a specific ethics and professionalism sector that you need to complete, or a student needs to complete. And this is done online through the ICAW's website. And basically, you have to read through various different case studies, situations, and scenarios. And once you've done so, I believe there are 3, then you have to sit an assessment. Now, the assessment itself isn't an exam, but there is an expectation for you to actually do it and do it well. And I think in most organisations, they look at a 70% sort of benchmark.
We spoke in an earlier video about the hands-on approach that medium-sized firms have with their students and their training. So I believe that every firm has a QPRT. What is that role? What does that actually involve?
QPRT stands for Qualified Person Responsible for Training, and effectively that is the mentor in the firm. So this individual will look after the students' needs throughout their training. They will assess and monitor how they're progressing. They would advise them. They will sign off their training records, because essentially when you sign up to be a trainee, you have online records which you have to complete. And the mentor, the QPRT as we call them, will actually sit down every 6 months or so, have a training review and sign off their training records accordingly. And they'll cover things like the work experience, they will look at the exam performance, they will also look at PD, professional development, and they'll also look at the ethics as well. Okay, and so by the time the student is ready to qualify, the QPRT will be the one that gives the final sign off to say you are a suitable and fit and proper chartered accountant.
Okay, and SWAT UK is a training provider. How do they also help with the training?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you mentioned SWAT UK, a training provider. We've also spoke earlier in an earlier video that we use Kaplan Financial. There is a difference between Kaplan Financial and SWAT UK. So Kaplan Financial train the students to pass the professional exams, whereas we are training the students to do the job. So, for example, we have, in effect, 5 different SWAT student courses, which we call student workshops, where the students will come in at various different times throughout their training agreement, and we'll work through various different situations, scenario, case studies, working groups, and essentially it's to give them the skills that they can apply in the workplace. Now, those courses may come at varying different times for different students in different firms as to the needs of that firm and that individual within the workplace.
Okay, and SWAT UK are really the students' main point of contact throughout their contract, aren't they? If there's any questions or queries, they actually come through SWAT UK first.
Yes, they do. We obviously recruit for a number of firms, but we also deal with student training for a number of other firms as well. And effectively, we look after the students' interests throughout their training, not just the SWAT student courses, but also the Kaplan courses as well. And therefore, we are the main point of contact. We deal with all the bookings of their student courses. We look after the administrational side of things. We can monitor the performance. We can provide counselling if we need to. So we are a good source of support throughout their training agreement. You'll also find that, within the firm, you obviously have your QPRT. At Kaplan, you have your tutors. At SWAT, you have ourselves as well. We also manage the account that we have for Kaplan, so we oversee the whole of the training process with them. We ensure that the students get a good quality of service. Firms get fees that are market rate, and so we have a real hands-on, full approach to the student training.
I think one of the other benefits that lots of students have spoken about as being part of the SWAT UK structure is also, you mentioned we recruit for a number of firms, but we have a number of firms that we look after their students. So a lot of people like that mini kind of university feel, if you like, where you have lots of different students that you've got the support of as well. Is that right?
Yeah, indeed. I mean, students, the firms that we deal with have maybe 1, 2, 3, perhaps 4 at most of an intake per firm. But when they come to SWAT UK, they are a group of students that are a cohort of students intaking at the same time, going through the exam process together, training together, and thereby being part of what we call a SWAT group. And indeed, if they go to Kaplan, they are in a class of SWAT students. So yeah, it's a good way for them to network and meet new people, and be very much a group of individuals that make new friends, get all sorts of different experiences and exposure in different areas.